Black Achievers Professional Network. We are the #1 network for Black professionals in Cincinnati. We have approximately 4,000 members in the greater Cincinnati area. We've been around since 2018, and we help to connect, educate, and economically empower the African American community. And today we have a total 4 other panelists and myself to talk about COVID conversations. So first, we're going to go through a word about our sponsors who sponsored this video series. And then we'll do our panelist introductions and let each person introduce themselves. And then we'll watch a brief video on vaccine hesitancy and how that affects the Black community and reasons why African Americans are hesitant on getting the vaccine. And then we'll do a panel Q&A, which is our session 1. And then we'll also watch another vaccine video on vaccine safety and how that's actually delivered. And then we'll have a panel Q&A session number 2. And then we'll have a just general conversation and conclusion. So pretty straightforward agenda for today. So first, we'd like to thank our sponsors, which is Interact for Health and the Carol Ann Ralph B. Hale Jr. Foundation. Both of them are trying to basically have conversations within the Black community to help individuals make a decision whether or not they want to take the vaccine or not, and also help promote, basically our community and helping with diversity and inclusion. So we're very thankful to Interact for Health and the Carol Ann Ralph E. Hale Jr. Foundation for their support. All right, well, I'm gonna play one more video and then we'll have another discussion. This one's on, I think, vaccine safety.
Yeah.
As Black Americans, we have much higher rates of diabetes and high blood pressure. All the more reason for all of us to get vaccinated.
What are the alternatives to not taking this vaccine? The alternatives are the potential of getting a deadly virus that you could get it and you might be totally fine, but you could actually give it to your mother, your sister, your brother, your neighbor, your auntie, someone, your child, and they might not be fine.
And that's not something that I think anybody wants to live with, is being the person who transmitted to COVID to their parents and killed them.
Even if they don't die, but they're left without a limb. We've had people lose their arms, legs, fingers. They have a stroke and can no longer talk, walk, see. And it's all because you carried it to them and you had an opportunity to prevent it.
So, is it still showing?
That we need to put in place. I hear a lot of people say, well, I have mask fatigue and I'm tired of the mask. We have to wear the mask, wash our hands, and social distance, even with the vaccine. Because until we get a certain number, and the number I'm hearing is 80% of the world, of the country, of your community being vaccinated and immune, we're still going to be having this struggle. Because something we don't know yet, even though somebody is vaccinated and immune, you might not get the virus, but you might be able to still carry it to someone else.
This vaccine is safe, it is effective, and this is our only way out of the pandemic. And I highly recommend, particularly Black and brown people, to get it.
Okay, so we're going to start a conversation based on that. So one is like the fear of, I know I had this in the beginning, not so much towards the end, but in the very beginning, it was like, how do you get it? And you can give it to your mom. I wasn't even around my mom for like 6 months, literally, and I see her almost every day prior to that, because it was just like, we just didn't know, right? Is it on the groceries? Can you pick it up? We're going through grocery stores with gloves on. I'm scared to death. I'm like, is the HVAC gonna kill me? And this stuff was unbelievable in the beginning. Now, as we learn more, it was more like, oh, okay, these are the ways you can really get it and not get it. But to the video's point is like, where are you guys with the concept of your family, immediate family? So I'll start with you, Jackie, and like the idea of maybe being able to pass it on or being passed it. Have you seen that? Have you had people in your family actually, get sick with COVID, and maybe talk through some of that?
So, unfortunately, I do not have parents or grandparents. They have since passed. And so my nucleus family is small.
Mm.
While we have cousins and nieces and nephews that we have missed dearly, my position was to keep us safe in our small bubble. Especially in that first 8 months or whatever that was when it was really bad. We stayed in our bubble. We ordered our groceries, did pickup. Yes, we wiped them off too.
It was crazy, right?
And we stayed in our bubble. And as we gradually began to come out of that bubble, we still keep distance. We still wear masks. I have seen family members. We have attended parties. Our family still wear their masks and still, greet one another, elbow, but we were able to see one another. If I've often thought, because I have a very good friend that was very concerned about her parents, that would be rough. And I understand that because you want to see your parents, but you don't want to be that one that affects them. So I probably would have a very different position as far as how do I keep them safe? How would I keep my parents safe? I know that I have a different position if they were here. Now I have experienced death. Let me say that. I had a really good friend who was in the hospital on a respirator for 180 days.
Wow.
And I lost 4 friends all to COVID. So it has affected me a little bit differently. It has made me a little more cautious. And then just hesitant about how do I move in the world. But first and foremost, keeping one another safe, keeping friends safe and wearing my mask and just, limiting contact in different ways, settings that are virtual. I've made my friends, let's have a virtual, girls' night, so just trying to keep safe.
Okay, thank you for those comments. Mr. Yoha, how would you interacting with your parents? I know they're, older.
Yeah, before we got vaccinated, I guess I probably did not touch my mom for almost a year.
Mm.
We would still talk. I would still, every once in a while, we would walk, but we would do the social distance walking. But it was probably the strangest period of time where you can't even hug your mom, right? It's very strange.
So that play into your decision to get the vaccine, though?
Like as humans, we kind of start adapting to the situation we're in. So by the time the vaccine was done, and it was almost like a new reality. So that was not even a big, because the vaccine, from what I understand, doesn't even prevent it from being. You can still catch it, you can still spread it. It just doesn't kill you, right? So it felt, so for some reason it didn't. That was not like a huge consideration. Because my mom got vaccinated, so she can come by and hang out more. But we would still be masked when she would come. But that was not just because we adjusted to that whole new reality. The new reality I was adjusting to that pushed me over the edge was I have to be places to earn for my family, right? So you can't be a salesperson if you're at home and your job says you need to go somewhere. It's just right. So that was just the situation there. But
okay. Thank you, sir. Janae, with you interacting with your family and parents and older people, what were your thoughts and concerns?
Yeah, that definitely definitely pulled on my heartstrings. I'm only human. When you hear things like that, you don't want to be the reason why someone passes away. I would say, as far as my immediate family, like my mom and my brothers, we have chosen, not to get vaccinated and things at this point in time. Those things seem to change on every other day, One day, we see a pop-up shop and it's like, maybe we should just go get it, whatnot. But we are very close-knit, but also very careful because, those kids are going back to school. My mom is actually a dental hygienist. So it's like just being very just cautious of things, and also just being transparent with people. So if there are family events and things going on, we have some family that are just like, stay 12 feet away. You know, you are not vaccinated. And that's okay. You know, if they choose, if you are if you are vaccinated or not vaccinated, own it, I would say, and just be open about that so that everybody can move accordingly. And I think the more that we just can be respectful in that capacity to just say, you know, what it is and be respectful of everyone's opinion and, you know, however they feel about the vaccine and things, if you are open about that, then we can all move forward, you know, accordingly and make those decisions for ourselves. And me and my cousin, she recently got married. And one of the things where we were so protective of our grandparents, they actually ended up getting COVID and showed no signs. But my grandmother, she ended up getting admitted to the hospital for something else. And then they tested her for COVID, found out she had it. Grandfather never had any symptoms. And then we have a wedding, you know, months later. And it's just like, we were trying to protect them the whole time. But now we need to, we should have been protecting ourselves from them, you know, type of thing. So it was kind of, you know, it's just been kind of all over. But for the most part, my family has been safe through immediate and at large. So we've just all been trying to be as precautious as possible.
All right. Well, thank you for those comments. Mr. McFadden, any concerns, I guess, with your mom early on or just your family?
I'm going to be the only one on the panel that is the complete opposite. You got to know my family. But, you know, for my mother, who no longer drives, lived by herself, right? You know, I would just mask up and go over there, but I never felt like I needed to limit myself. She stays in kind of a senior building, right? I was more worried about those seniors in the building behaving versus my interaction with her, right? And then the same for my dad. You know, he's of the old school minds, you know, mind and thought. He's like, you know, you're gonna die of something. He's like, you know, I do not want to be in a situation where I can't see you. When are you coming over here? You know, so again, no limitation on visiting him. When it first happened, I masked up, but he was the one that was like, man, I'm tired of wearing this. And, you know, he would use choice words, right? So I tried to influence him to keep it on, especially early on. But today, you know, I go over, you know, or we go out to dinner, you know, things of that sort. So, you know, we haven't really been good stewards, I should say, of as it relates to society and, you know, saying they need to wear masks all the time. He's vaccinated, my mom's vaccinated, I'm vaccinated, you know what I mean? So we didn't, in the society's eyes, you know, kind of mask up at all times. Now, if the restaurant required it, we obviously did it, which, you know, seems to sometimes, as I think about that, that doesn't even make sense when, you know, you take it off when you're going to eat and drink, you know, and you got people walking past, you know what I mean? It's like, how is it really helping? You know, is it really preventing? So, you know, within my family, we go to work. I'm back in the office a couple of days a week. My wife goes into the office every day, and she comes home. She's vaccinated, but again, you know, she's not coming in and wearing a mask. You know, she wears a mask, I think, when she's out and kind of walking around in her hospital setting, but when she's back in her office, she doesn't. But again, you know, if this thing lives in the air for a period of time, you know what I mean? Yeah. So we've just been very, very different in thought in terms of wearing the mask, I think.
Well, let's talk about that for a second with the rest of the group, because I was stunned at how I went from wearing a mask makes no sense to wearing a mask every day. And it was like the easiest transaction, you know, when we got into it, where we were just all wearing masks. I mean, it was just unbelievable how, you know, you can transition to that. So did you guys experience it the same way, or maybe it was different? But like, Jackie, so in your world, you guys we never wore a mask ever before. We saw them in Asia for years, right? But then no one in America ever did this. I'm walking through Westchester. Next thing I know, everyone has a mask on. It was like almost overnight. And it was just like common. So how did you experience?
Pretty much the same. It was like, and you know, I used to say, oh my God, look at him. I couldn't imagine having to wear a mask every day. I would literally say that. And now here we are wearing a mask every day. And I agree with Leandre. I didn't go out to restaurants for a long time, but in the last couple months, I've gone to restaurants, and it's like you have to wear a mask in there, but then you sit down to eat and you take your mask off. So as much as I could, not being antisocial with whoever, I would get my food to go, because it doesn't make sense. If you're going to sit there and eat with your mask off, you're exposed.
Correct.
Yeah, it's been something. It's been challenging, but I accept, like Janae said, accept who you are, where you are, in the position where you're at, unvaccinated, but know what, and let people know that. Know your truth, know where you stand, and keep yourself protected and keep others protected.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
I think Ohio's just been like handled the pandemic really well. I think that's I feel like we're very fortunate in terms of how the government did it. Like, you know, a lot of other states did not do a good job. They pretend like there was no such thing as a pandemic. They made it very political. And I felt like Ohio, we did a bang up job on it. It was just, so I felt that was really fantastic. I'm almost the opposite of the point that you and Leandre made on the restaurants. I think some measures are better than no measure, right? So, you know, so the rule is you wear the mask in, so you're not exposed to you sit. Then when you sit around the people you're gonna be around anyway, then you can unmask. But when you go to the bathroom, you move around where you can spread, you're supposed to be masked. So I think it's not perfect, but you have to do something that's realistic. No one's gonna wear their mask when they're eating dinner. So I think they had to put together rules that were helpful but not perfect, right? So that was I kind of thought that way initially, but I was like, well, something's better than nothing, right? So be protected some of the time rather than never. Just so that's kind of like my feedback on that was.
No, I agree, David. I agree with that, because restaurants have to do what they have to do. They need to stay in business as well. But and
then people are not going to do it. Like, you're not going to eat a steak with your mask on. It's not practical, right? So like, it's just a reality of the situation. If you're going to a restaurant, you're going to eat. So just going like that, it's not going to work. Like, so I think you just have to, if you're going to go out to eat, realize that there is a risk that some person might walk by without their mask on, cough on you. That's a chance. But the rules are, they are supposed to be walking around with their masks on. Only when you're seated, you're not supposed to have your mask. So, and then to your point, Mike, like you said, it was like this. Like I became just used to wearing the mask. I had a mask in every coat pocket. I had a mask in my car. And it was just always like, just became a normalcy thing. Now I'm almost a little weird not wearing a mask, you know, but then, you know, like now I flip the other way. Now I don't almost ever wear a mask unless it's a sign that says wear a mask. So I've now flipped to the other side of the thing. Like, well, I'm vaccinated now, so no need for a mask. So it's like that habit is like, you get into one habit and then you go to the new habit and then the new habit kicks in.
Yeah, it's funny how fast that happens too. All right, so we have one last set of questions. This has been a great conversation, guys, so really appreciate it. I'm gonna pull up our questions and see. Maybe we'll take one or two. So thoughts on children taking the vaccine? I think that's kind of one we've touched on a little bit. Oh, the lottery. Yeah, we never talked about that. So remember when they came out with the lottery and all that? Did you guys think that was helpful in motivating people? I'll start with Janae. Did your friends, like anyone ever talk about that when that was happening?
Oh, absolutely. And I just find it so weird. I don't know that we should never be in a place where we are, you know, having lottery systems and things like that put into place for people to just take care of themselves, you know, essentially to get vaccinated, something that's just supposed to be, you know, for our health and things. And I think it was one of the donut shops was even giving donuts out for a year if you got vaccinated. And I'm like, what kind of sense does that make? I said, only here in America are we going to say get vaccinated and become unhealthy, you know, for a whole year, you know? So It's just, you know, ridiculousness. I feel as far as some of the incentives that have just been put in place and things, and I think it's really starting to get out of hand, and people aren't truly thinking about the morale behind all of that and the long-term effects, and just really what message are we putting out there if we are saying this. So
Thank you for your comments. That's funny. Leandre, did you, in your circles, did you guys talk about the lottery or any of that come up, or not too much?
We didn't even talk about the lottery. It just didn't make sense to me. You know, it just felt gimmicky, you know, personally, but within my family, we didn't even talk about it.
Okay. Jackie, did you hear anything from your family or people about it?
I agree. It was gimmicky, and I felt that it was, bad that we had to pay people to take care of their own health, to incentivize them to do better, to do the right thing, or do what they're supposed to be doing always anyway. So yeah, but we did not spend a lot of time talking about it. Just thought it was kind of ridiculous and another ploy, or
Right.
gimmick.
Yeah, I would love for them to share, you know, numbers, right? You know, what was the number of people did that campaign cause or was attributed to getting the vaccine? You know, that's never, those numbers are never shared. Probably never will be. You know, was it a success or not? I don't know.
I think numbers were shared.
I didn't-
Are they factual numbers?
That's a great point. That is a very, very great and
Yeah,
valid point.
once you don't trust the government, then if they don't share the numbers, you should share the numbers. If they do share them, do I believe the numbers? So I guess it's it's always going to be a lose-lose from
right.
the government perspective. In my circles, I don't do the lottery, so and I don't know anyone who does the lotteries, so it never came up. My perspective, I guess I'm just a little bit, again, opposite of you guys. I'm like, whatever it takes. Like, there's this global pandemic, and some people are still denying that it is happening. I think that's the other thing. It's one thing where you say, I'm not taking the vaccine for personal health reasons, and I'm going to be very careful. And I think it's another thing where you're like, COVID is not real. That's why I'm not taking the vaccine. And then that's very dangerous. That's how the pandemic never ends, right? So if few of those people are convinced by the lottery, then I'm all for it. So I'm like, so having gimmicky systems, as long as it's effective and it's no harm, like the donor thing is a little dicey, but people are going to eat donuts anyway. So, but if that helps get one person to be safe and not get sick and die, I mean, is that worth it? So I'm kind of like, do whatever it takes to slow down the global pandemic, as long as it's not, really detrimental. And so I argue that point.
And I'll counter that again just to say that, we don't even know if those that don't believe were the ones that participated in the lottery or the ones that ate donuts. You know what I mean? So I just really the overarching point for me was, we shouldn't have to resort to those things in order to entice people to believe or not believe.
Yeah.
But the point is like, it's not what we should or shouldn't do, right? There's people who are not believing. So it was the alternative. Right. So what would be the alternative options? So they were coming up with a whole bunch of ideas. And then so some ideas that you would agree with, and then some ideas that you disagree with. But I think they were just trying, because you're in the middle of this pandemic and you're like, we need to get some traction so people stop dying. What do we do? And and then they were just trying everything. So obviously a whole bunch of ideas flop, but I'm not opposed to trying different things just to get a few people to be safe. So
I like what David's saying. I like his perspective, and it gives a different perspective. Like, do whatever it takes. The end result or the goal is to get more people vaccinated. So I see what you're saying. Whatever.
And I found that because that was not something, how things vibrate on your wavelength and come across your view. Like, I don't do the lottery and I don't know people who do. So it didn't really even come in my radar. Like, I heard it once or twice, that was it, whereas people who do the lottery probably know all the details about it. And you know what I mean? So I think it kind of picks and chooses. It just didn't resonate with me at all. So that's my 2 cents. All right, let me see if there's another great question on here. What about the breakthrough COVID infection? I keep hearing about this everywhere. Anyone know anyone who's gotten sick after they've gotten the vaccine? David? Leandre?
No, haven't
Jack?
heard of anyone.
I don't know anyone personally, just Jesse Jackson's, and the
Yeah,
Jacksons.
yeah, I don't know anyone personally either, so I don't know what, how really that is. So we talked about the lottery, the mask mandate. So this was a good one. Dave put this one out there, as you can tell by the way it's written. He thinks differently. If a person refuses the vaccine and gets sick, should they be a lower priority in hospital care? I'm gonna start with Jackie. That's a deep question.
Yeah, that is.
So the argument, let me frame it a little bit. So the argument obviously is that, hey, all these ICU beds are being filled up by unvaccinated people, right? So they're like, hey, now what happens? So, I'll let you answer from there.
I get it. I guess I just took from the perspective that medical care professionals take an oath. They take an oath to service and care for any and all, even if they are a murderer, a rapist, or someone who did not take care of themselves and are the reason that they are infected. So I'm going to say no. I will hope that the healthcare profession sees it that way as well. I get where you're coming from. But just because someone is unvaccinated, they're not asking to get sick. And so it's not their fault that something happens to them. So
Janae, thank you for that. That's a great answer. Janae, your perspective?
Yeah, I would agree. I think we have, and I think it's something to be said too, that just because someone is not vaccinated doesn't mean that they're not taking care of their health either. They could be a person who's never gotten a vaccine, and I don't think enough is spoken about that too. How many people have never received vaccines ever and are productive and healthy citizens, in the world and things. So it's just kind of one of those things where that has to be taken into consideration. And I think we all have a personal responsibility kind of for everyone. We are here on this earth together, so we all kind of take care of everyone as best as we can, and hopefully yourself for other people as well.
Okay. Leandre, any perspective on that?
Yeah, there's, in my opinion, I just feel strongly about there should be no consideration given to, if you got the vaccine or not and got sick. The healthcare setting needs to take care of those that come in needing medical help, regardless of what type of status. You could graduate from there to their political affiliation. Should I take care of them because they believe one way or another? It's no. You come in, you need medical help, then that should be administered to you. Again, if you're not helping that person and they truly do have COVID and we're not helping them, then are you contributing to the spread of that disease to others because you did not help them? So I don't think any consideration should be given to a status.
Okay. And the writer of Mr. Rabble Rouser himself, Mr. David Yoha. You're on mute now, brother. You're on mute.
Not sure why you outed me, man. That's it's a question that was a question I saw. Like a lot of health professionals are starting to get really upset.
Oh, I've seen that too. Yeah, I've seen it on news. I mean, it wasn't like you made it up. I mean, I saw that exact argument. It's good to get our perspective on it.
I don't know. It's I think it's all things are fine until there's limited resources, right? So like you said, Leandre, if you come in, you should be taken care of. But what if there's 5 beds and 10 sick people and 5 of them did not take the vaccine by choice? So you say, like, I'm not taking the vaccine, and you got COVID. Is there some personal responsibility there? How do you handle that? So I don't know. And it's not a black and white issue. Some people, for example, cannot take the vaccine because if they take it, there's going to be conflicts with other medication they have. So it might cause more harm than good. So it's a million things. And the only reason when this conversation is proving that, right? So I don't know if it's black or white, and I think that's just something we're going to keep discussing until the pandemic is gone. So.
Yeah, that's a good question though. All right, I think that brings us to the end. This has been fantastic. I wanted to make sure we had a few minutes for any additional comments or things that you might have came up that you might want to speak about. So I'll just kind of go around the room. Janae, anything in general, or just how you thought about this talk?
Yeah, I think this was great. I appreciate everybody really being transparent. And for anyone who watches this, I just hope that everyone makes an informed decision for yourself and for your loved ones and things. And you obviously think about, everyone that you'll be in contact with and all of those things, and just be aware of that. And I hope that everyone, with your research and things, that you are responsible when you are going out and about and things, so that we can, eventually get out of this. And I really hope that, beyond just this pandemic and things, that people really start taking their health seriously, because it's not going to be just a one-time thing. Oh, I've been taking oregano oil and all of this now in the pandemic, I'm going to be good. It takes your body getting used to a healthy lifestyle, and it has to be a lifestyle, not just a period of time for you to really be immune to certain things, and just for your body to work like it should to fight off bacteria and viruses that we are exposed to every day. So I really do hope that people start taking those things into consideration and start being serious about that, and make a lifestyle change for forever and permanently.
Thank you. Well said. Any final comments from you, Leandre, on just the talk and things in general you want to pass on to
This
viewers?
has been great. I hope that those that view this after we're done, we've been able to impart kind of a different thought to the conversation that will aid them in becoming better informed. As Janae stated, it's really just be informed. We can't listen to everything, but you certainly can inform yourself, because one thing's for certain, there's going to be something else. I mean, if you think about our history, right? We've had swine flu, we've had SARS, we've had Zika, I saw a list of like 12 different viruses, right? And now COVID is being added to that. So there's going to be something else. And as a result of it being something else, you just have to inform yourself. And once you inform yourself, make an informed decision, and then, own that, as it was stated earlier, and make decisions based off of that for you and your family.
Okay. Thank you, sir. And Jackie, any final comments you want for viewers, or summing things up?
I definitely agree with the sentiments that my panelists here have shared. I would also encourage everyone to move not in fear, but informed. Move not in fear, but be informed. Inform yourself. Don't just read the Facebook feeds and all that. Read for yourself. Find out for yourself, and be intentional about what you choose to do to protect yourself and to protect your family and those around you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Yoha, final comments?
This has been a really amazing conversation. I'm glad the Hill Foundation sponsored this. It brought information from myself that I didn't even know was there from answering the questions. It's very strange. Like, I was talking out loud, I was like, wow, that was there. It never struck me that I hadn't hugged my mom in a year. Like, I didn't say that out loud. But it's real. You know what I mean? So this conversation brought, I think, from all of us, a lot of really unique and different perspectives to the conversation. My final thing will be, the pandemic is not over. We still have to be safe. We're not out of the woods. Protect yourself, protect your friends, protect your family.